Did Jesus really replace Israel with the Catholic Church? We're not going to talk about that today, but there's some things brewing with Sharia law here in the state of Texas that is going to blow your mind, so you don't want to go anywhere. There's a city coming right here just less than an hour away from Dallas. Doug and I aren't going to live there, but we're going to dive off into what's happening with Sharia law here in Dallas, here in the Dallas, Texas area. Welcome to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Don't forget to share this video. There's a Sharia City coming to the Dallas, Texas area. We're going to tell you all about it. It's actually, we have some team members here that live within miles from it. So I think some people out there are going to be surprised at what's developing even here in the great state of Texas. Before we get into that, don't forget, we need your help. Share this video. As we talk about Sharia law, we realize that it's a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation, and there can be some aggressive comments that are generated from shows like these, but we want to tell you the truth. We want to highlight what's going on in the world, and we're going to explain it through the lens of Bible prophecy. We're going to keep doing that no matter what. So we need your help sharing the video, engaging in the comment section, and giving us a heart or a thumbs up. It'll go a long way in helping us get through the algorithms, getting to your friends and family. Before we do that, though, how many of you out there are still banking with the banks that align so closely with this world government system? Well, you need to check out our friends at America's Christian Credit Union. To do that, simply go to endtime.com/ACCU. They have a partnership with Every Life, and they sponsor diapers to new moms who are choosing life for every new Endtimer opening a new checking account with them. So be sure to enter promo code Endtime when you do it, because you're going to get $100 in bonuses in your new account just for signing up. You can check out all the details at endtime.com/ACCU and enter promo code Endtime when you apply. All right, Doug, I mentioned the Catholic Church. So is the Pope still alive? Let's start with that real quick.
You know, I read an article just before we came on. It said the Pope was actually doing pretty good, that he's he's kind of bouncing back from this. So I guess we'll see. Sounds like he's doing well right now. You know, there's been rumors of the opposite, but that last article I read said that he is coming back. So there you go.
All right. Could he be the false prophet then, or still unlikely?
Well, I mean, he's a very old man, but whoever's holding that office when the Antichrist is revealed, they'll be the false prophet for sure. So, wonders of live TV.
Well, also not aligning with the Sharia City here in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
The Epstein list. It's supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out at noon. We just saw breaking news a few minutes ago that A.G. Bondi, I think is her name. She has requested through Kash Patel an investigation to figure out why the FBI office in New York is withholding thousands of documents. So it didn't get released.
Right.
There's some conservative influencers holding binders on the internet saying they've got phase one. None of that has come out yet. So that seems a little sketchy to me, that all these people who want transparency and freedom, they all have information that none of us have, and none of them have leaked the information. That just seems odd to me, Doug.
It does seem odd.
But what do we need to know about the Epstein list, or if there's anything to know?
Well, I mean, you know, all we know is what we've heard, and we don't know anything else about it. We just know that there supposedly is a list out there that's going to have a lot of people's names on it that you would recognize, and that they've done some naughty things, and that actually the Attorney General said, she said they've done some pretty sick things. So I don't know if we'll find out details about things, but we will. We're supposedly supposed to get a list of everybody that's been to the island at some point in time. So we'll wait and see if we hear that. Like you said, we thought that we would hear it by noon today. We did not. Normally they do things late in the afternoon like this, and so we don't know. It could happen within moments. Who knows when they're going to release that, or maybe they're not going to do it till tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, if nothing else, it'll be interesting. We'll be able to put some of these conspiracy theories to rest, or be able to say, well, look, it was true. So we'll see. It's an interesting thing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, even
not as
more,
interesting as Trump.
that, and not as interesting as, to me, today, the Sharia-compliant Muslim city happening right here in the heart of Texas.
Yeah.
We talk about some good things coming out of Texas, and then we hear stories like these where there's a Sharia city coming.
Yeah.
403 acres, I think is what it is.
Yes.
Just like 40 minutes from here, Doug.
Yeah, it's kind of on the border of Plano and Josephine, which is, you know, Josephine's kind of out in the country when you start heading that way. You know, I was talking to one of our production team, and they live out there close to where this is. And I said, this is where I used to ride my motorcycle to get out of the city and get into the country and ride around, because it's very nice and peaceful out there. But now you're talking about 400 and something acre tract that's going to be specifically for Muslims, even though they're saying that it's not, that they're going to open it up to all kinds of people. But it's a very interesting article. But you know, Vince, one of the things you were talking about with everybody, you were saying that to share this, make sure they share it and everything. And that's, we do need you to do that for sure, because every time we share something like this, this will generate phone calls for us. And sometimes they're not very nice phone calls. Sometimes they're threats. Anytime we talk about Sharia law, or we talk about Muslims, anything like that. And the thing about it is, we're in the heart of an area that has one of the largest Muslim populations in the state of Texas. Right here next to Plano is Richardson. It has the biggest mosque in Texas, or at least it used to be. I used to work right across the street from it when I worked at an educational service center over there. And so we dealt with it firsthand. When they would come in to worship on Fridays, we had to hire a police officer to keep our parking lot from getting filled up, while you could go to lunch and come back and there was nowhere to park for the employees of the building. And so a lot of things happened through that. I mean, we had confrontations with people. The police officer was attacked by several men from the mosque. I had to go to court over it, because I ran out to the police officer's aid and was trying to help him, and ended up having to go to court for like a week in a little court case, because these people were saying they were wrongly arrested that were putting hands on a police officer. So it's interesting. And they say they're not going to set up Sharia law in there, But Governor Greg Abbott said that he sure does feel like that's what they're saying. And so it's very interesting.
Well, Doug, I texted my cousin who lives out near there, and I was saying, hey, look how close this is to y'all. And he started telling me about some things he's already learned about this and how technically it's illegal. You can't, I think it's in the United States, you cannot you cannot refuse to sell a home for religious reasons.
Yeah.
So it would be impossible to build a Muslim city where you only allow Muslims to live there, or even a neighborhood where you only allow Muslims. That's illegal.
Yeah.
Now, does it happen? Oh, well, he started sharing some stuff that he's discovered where even right here, closer than that, just in the town over, even here in Plano, there are HOAs that have been set up, homeowners associations that have been set up where they have certain rules that you have to abide by for being in the HOA. Of course, they have to be approved by the state. But then what will happen is they have this community where when someone's ready to sell their home, they don't post it publicly. They post it in their internal groups first. And then, of course, it gets bought up there. So therefore, they control, maybe it's probably not like a church bulletin like maybe some of us would be used to, something like that church classifieds document. But somewhere in a Muslim community, they're sharing that, and they allow Muslims to buy it first, and that usually happens. And so therefore these neighborhoods are completely, everyone who lives there are Muslims. And are we good to share that one story from your friend that happened here in Plano? Yeah,
I mean, before I started working here at the ministry, I worked at the city of Plano as a public safety officer at the court, and I had several officers that were friends of mine, and one of them was telling me that he responded to a call in one of these Muslim neighborhoods right here. I mean, it's really just right around the street from us, right around the block. And he said when he showed up there, men were standing in the street, Muslim men were standing in the street and blocking the road, asking him what he was doing there, and he told him he was responding to a domestic violence call. He needed through into the neighborhood, and they told him, we have Sharia law here. You're not permitted here. You have no authority here. And the officer told him, I'm pretty sure this is still the United States of America. And not only that, this is the Lone Star State of Texas. And if you don't get out of the way, I will call for backup, and we'll have so many cops down here, everybody will be going to jail. And they finally backed off and let the officer through, and he went and took care of his call. But they were trying to keep a law enforcement officer from coming into a neighborhood in this city from doing his job as a police officer. So it didn't fly. And so, they ended up having to get out of the way. But just imagine, I mean, they were trying to intimidate a police officer in the city that they lived in. So think about that. That's not a good thing to do. And most people wouldn't even think to do that. I mean, you're not going to get in the way of a squad car when a squad car comes in and they're making a call. So anyway, very interesting that happened. And that was I've been here for 8 years now. And so that was at least 8 years ago when that happened. Now we're seeing this. So we're watching it go from a neighborhood where there's several houses that are owned by Muslims into we're just going to build our own community and have our own community with our own school system, our own, theaters and soccer fields and all these different things. And so very interesting.
It's kind of like there's some loopholes being found to maintain, I guess, what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
You think maybe one of us would live in that city before it's over with, or could we get in?
I don't think so. I don't think that, well, first of all, I don't know that we would want to, but secondly, we would not meet their criteria to get in there because we're Christian and they're not going to want that in there. But it would be interesting to see what would happen if a lot of Christian people started trying to buy tracts up in this area. I bet you none of them would get through. So
yeah, I went to the website, actually, the development, and there's a place for HOA docs that are there, and when you click it, it doesn't share them. You have to create an account to log in, and then maybe you get access. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to dive into this, but it kind of goes in line with, we've been telling you there's some stuff that we've heard about things that have crossed the border. There's been things that have been developing, and of course, we don't know when or how all the details are going to develop. with the sixth trumpet war, where a war is going to happen that kills a third of mankind, according to Revelation. That is still yet to happen. And so, like I said, we don't know when or how that's going to happen. But as we think about these things, we realize these type of topics activate that preparedness inside of you. And there's nothing wrong with preparing a bit physically. In fact, we would encourage you to check out our friends at Ready Pantry. Some of you out there already have an emergency supply of food and water, or you're in the market for long-lasting food supply. You need to go to readypantry.com/endtime. You'll get free shipping on all orders. Their food's 100% made right here in the United States, never imported, and they have a buy now, pay later option for you. So go to readypantry.com/endtime, use code endtime today, and save 10% off your entire order. So Doug, what do we need to know specifically? This city's called Epic.
Yeah.
Epic City. What do we need to know about the development there?
Well, so this was, it was first brought to my attention the first time I saw it was when this Amy Meek, a conservative commentator on X, she put this post out, and you sent it to me the other day. Now, I'd seen some other things that were like, I was hearing whispers about it, but I didn't have anything conclusive till you sent me what you sent the other day. But this article, it says, deep in the heart of Texas, just outside of Dallas, this new community of Epic City, a total Muslim city, was brought to light. It's a big change for Texas. That's for certain. The problem is with Islam, it is a total way of life, political, social, religious, and there can be no other way. Sharia law cannot coexist with the U.S. Constitution, and the U.S. needs people to be assimilated. So that's kind of the whole thing about what immigration is. When we have people that immigrate into this country, and the ones that we want to welcome in here, that's part of the deal. You become an American. You're not bringing your culture with you and wanting to change laws in the area you live. You want to abide by their laws and begin to assimilate into it. And that's what this article was talking about. But it says, what is the plan for this Epic City? The planned community near Dallas, it aims to be Sharia compliant. That means it follows Islamic law. And the plan includes homes, schools, a mosque, shops, and more. Some people are worried about what this means for Texas and for America. Epic City is being developed by and this is why it's called Epic, by the East Plano, which we live in Plano, or this is where Endtime is headquartered in Plano, East Plano Islamic Center. That's where the word epic comes from. East Plano Islamic Center. They have acquired over 400 acres in Josephine, Texas to build this community, and the project will feature mosque at its center surrounded by houses, townhomes, apartments, Muslim schools, parks, gyms, and other facilities. Many Texans are expressing concern over the Epic City, but some see it as creating a separate Muslim-only area. That's what it looks like, which they fear could lead to segregation. They worry it might become a no-go zone where non-Muslims feel unwelcome. Critics also fear that introducing Sharia law could conflict with the U.S. laws and values. And on the other hand, supporters argue that the Epic City is about religious freedoms, except it's not simply a religion, it's a complete life plan. And when you follow Islam, you have to follow all their rules. And we'll get into those rules here in a little while and kind of show you some of the things that go along with Sharia law.
Well, just a little tidbit here, Doug. East Plano Islamic Center is 3 miles away from the Endtime studio. And it's right across the street from that neighborhood where you just said the story you told about your friend that was a cop. It's right by there. So they're the ones behind this city that's happening just less than an hour from here.
Yeah, and the creator, we're about to show you a video from this fellow. And this guy is really, he's kind of kind of radical. I mean, some of the things he said, I mean, when the whole thing between the Palestinians and Israel was going on with October 7th and what happened, he screaming and hollering on a video that he would not condemn Palestine for what they had done or Hamas for what they had done unless people begin to condemn Israel for the atrocities that they've committed. And I don't know if you remember Dave talking about it, but when that was going on, just right over here across the street from us is Raytheon, and they were protesting outside Raytheon, and we actually drove down the street and I videotaped it as we drove by, and there were hundreds of people out there dressed in the Islamic clothing, all black, the hijabs and everything. The women were completely covered. They're holding signs up, protesting Israel and the fact that Raytheon made weapons that were sent to Israel to fight against Hamas. And so it's right here in our backyard, folks. Even though this is Texas and we like to say, you know, that this is the Lone Star State and this couldn't happen in Texas, this is happening in our own backyard. So very interesting. And we have a clip that we want to show this is, I guess, their clip to draw all the folks into this new epic city. So
I'm ready to watch it.
All right, let's watch this.
Brothers and sisters, I'm sure many of you have heard of the amazing project that we're doing known as Epic Cities. We are, alhamdulillah, constructing an entire city half an hour from downtown Dallas, literally 30 minutes from our own Plano Masjid over here. It's going to be a city of over 1,000 people. Alhamdulillah, we launched this website last year and we sold the entire phase 1 within days. Because of the demand, we are now opening up Epic Ranches. Epic Ranches is an exclusive opportunity for those who want to be within minutes of Epic City, but also want larger plots. We have 2 Epic Ranches. Epic Ranches 1 begins with 1 acreage and goes up to 5 acreage. And Epic Ranches 2 has plots of ½ acre and also investment opportunities for those who want to build condominiums. Brothers and sisters, this is a limited time opportunity. It is an amazing time to invest for the future, not only in yourselves, but of your children after you. We are, inshallah ta'ala, going to change the entire da'wah scene by demonstrating to the world what it means to be a Muslim living in the West.
So, I mean, you hear it straight from him. They want to change the entire Dallas scene. They want to make it different than what it is. And do you remember, Vince, when President Obama said that we are no longer a Christian nation, that the United States is no longer a Christian nation? What he was talking about is that we have other religions that are moving in this area and that they are changing the face of our nation. And that's what these people are claiming too. That's what they want to do. And so by introducing this, first of all, folks, you know that there's not too many people that are not Muslim that would want to live in this area. I don't know if you've ever been around any, well, I know you have, Vince, because we go to Israel, and the call to prayer itself, we were talking about this before, where President Obama said it was one of the most beautiful things he had ever heard. I've heard it in Israel, and it woke me up from a sound sleep one morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning. It scared me to death. I mean, it is not something that is attractive to me. And if I'm living out in the country out there in my peaceful little 1 acre lot somewhere, the last thing I want to hear at 5 o'clock in the morning is call to prayer, a Muslim call to prayer, or to hear that 7 times a day, because they're going to be praying 7 times a day. And I was watching a video of this man earlier, and he was really talking bad about Christianity, and he was talking about, the sad thing about it, though, Vince, is that the points he was making, I'm like, well, he's not wrong, but he was saying, you know, Christians claim to be Christians, but they don't really follow their faith, and they couldn't tell you a whole lot about their theology. And he's not wrong in that. And that's the thing. I mean, the one thing about Muslim people is they are very dedicated to their beliefs, even though their beliefs are twisted beliefs. I mean, we'll get into that when we look at the Sharia law and things that we're going to look at here. But they're, like he said, they want to change the face of Dallas. And they're not going to stop in Dallas, guys. If this becomes something really big and expands, it's not going to just be in Dallas. We're going to see it in Austin. We're going to see it in San Antonio. We're going to see it in Houston. We're going to see them try to take over the whole state of Texas. And it can change the demographic. It can change the way elections outcomes are. I mean, this is why Israel struggles so bad, you know, to keep an existence in the Middle East, because they're being overrun by Arab nations and by Muslim nations who hate them and want them erased from the earth. And so they're dealing with it over there on a daily basis.
Well, I'm interested to know, Doug, what do the end timers think? If a community like this would go up in your area, would you want to live in it? Would you want to invest in the future, like he said? Put 1 in the comments, just the number 1 in the comments for no. Put 2 for yes. Would you want to live in a epic city in your area? 1 for no, 2 for yes. Speaking of investing, you've heard of the economists forecasting this depression that's coming by 2030. Well, consider what you're doing now to protect your family for the future. You've heard us say it. You've heard it all around the world. Gold is a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. They will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. So protect your future today. Visit birchgold.com/endtime. Get your free info kit on gold and the copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, only information. And Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings, and you can count on them too. So go to birchgold.com/endtime today. Now, Doug, this story is obviously big, and it's got the attention of Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He said Sharia law is not allowed in Texas, and says that this city in Josephine, I guess, is not, I guess he can't stop it from happening. Obviously, people can buy whatever properties they want and build their homes and whatever.
Yeah.
It sounds like from that video, I didn't realize that the phase 1 was Epic City, and that was already sold out. And they're bought more land down the road, and there's ranches coming. So it sounds like it's already underway. I don't know if construction has began or not, but it's underway in one way or another.
Here's what we ought to do one day. We ought to get in the car. We ought to drive over there and video it.
Man on the country street.
Yeah, for real. We ought to just do that, just to go check it out. Since we're doing this story, why not? We can give people updates on what's going on, and just kind of, maybe we could drive down in there and see if anybody will talk to us about it. What's it going to hurt?
I don't know if anyone would want to see footage like that, Doug.
Well, maybe you should ask.
Let us know in the comments. What else do we know about Governor Abbott and what he's responding to on this?
Well, I'm glad that Governor Abbott is saying something about this, and he is saying, we're not going to allow Sharia law here. That's a good thing to hear, because there are some places in Europe where they have Sharia courts, and they actually have Sharia cases where they bring people in under Sharia law. And Sharia law, you folks, it's a bad thing. It's pretty nasty, some of the things that they'll do. You've heard before that if a person's caught stealing, they'll chop their hand off. And a lot of times that'll happen in the Middle East. That'll just happen in the street. They'll just decide, okay, this person stole from me, drag them out in the street, and they do this publicly so everybody can see it and they can set an example. Well, those are just some of the things that they do. But the governor assures us, look, this is not going to happen. What worries me are these no-go zones, okay? So in the notes there, it talks about this no-go zone. And that is scary, because I was talking to my brother yesterday, who is my brother is an engineer and a land developer, where they do engineering for land developing. And I asked him about this, if he knew anything about it. He had no idea. But he was telling me that a friend of his, who is also in this business, was overseas somewhere, and they told them at nighttime there were no-go zones. For them, there are certain areas because whatever they were doing, they would go out at night and go venture into the city. And they were saying, okay, these are the no-go zones. You can't go there because you're not Muslim. And so if you go there, you can be killed because you're going into their area. So that's what worries me, is that this is going to become something like that. That's why I was saying maybe we should just jump in. You know what? I can drive my Jeep that day, so that way if we got to get out in a hurry, we could just put that baby in four-wheel drive and just go through the field. But we can go check it out, and we can videotape some of this and maybe see if we could talk to somebody just to see if we get to feel like this is a no-go zone, just to kind of maybe shed a little bit more light on it for not only us but for our audiences too. So I don't know, maybe something we should do. And if we find out something, maybe we could send that to Governor Greg Abbott and let him see it. So
might be worth doing, Doug. And I bet you Dave is going to be talking about this at his conference in Las Vegas, because he talks about breaking prophecy events. And I can assure you, questions like this come up at those events. You want to be there in Las Vegas if you're in the area, or if not, make plans to be there. You can go to endtime.com/events to learn more about the conference details. It's just coming up here in a few weeks. So you want to be in our first Las Vegas conference ever. Doug, also, we just figured out the numbers yesterday. This is episode 7007 of this show.
Wow.
Irvin Baxter started back in 1998, and this is episode 7007.
Wow.
So
that's epic.
That's epic, that is. We'll be right back after this break to talk more about the Sharia City coming to the Dallas area. We've got a whole lot more details for you, so don't go anywhere.
A reminder of the breaking news this hour. At least 22 people are reported to have died in a strike in Gaza.
The rise of Islam.
I'm trying to bring answers for so many families desperately.
Is the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict World War III? So let's talk about the four horsemen. What do these horses symbolize? These are the four spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. In the end time, the true people of God will not be weak, anemic, and defeated. These prophesied events are revealing we are quickly approaching the time of the Great Tribulation right now.
Now streaming on OneSource and available to order at endtime.com/screen. Go to endtime.com/screen or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the End Time Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Don't forget, you can go to endtime.com/grace, stream our brand new 8-episode series with Dr. Jim Littles. He highlights the topic of grace and how beneficial it is for you, no matter where you're at in your walk with the Lord. And it's definitely a life-changing series, and you can stream all 8 episodes tonight if you wanted to start with it. Endtime.com/grace is where you should go to start streaming today. It's totally free for only Source subscribers. If you're not a subscriber already, you can start a free trial today, and you could binge watch all of them and then cancel your trial if you wanted to. I have a feeling that you're going to like the content there. You're going to want to stick around for years to come. And of course, there's going to be new content going up there very soon. We've got several things in the works, and we're very excited about what the Lord is doing through Only Source streaming. Of course, we have their television channels in Houston and Nashville and Louisville, Kentucky, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Kingston, Pennsylvania, and God's doing a wonderful work through Only Source and through all of you as you continue to tell others about it. We had a wonderful time yesterday with some end-timers out there, and they're telling others about end time, and God's opening up many doors. So we're excited about what the Lord's doing. So again, go to endtime.com/grace to stream our brand new series. Doug, back on the Sharia City thing, where do we, I guess, pick up from where we left off?
Well, you know, I mean, just to be fair on what Newsweek printed in this article, Vince, they're saying that even though Sharia law is Islam-based and it's the teachings off of the Quran, and that's where they are, the Quran, where they get their law from, but they said that they could find no references of the Epic City organizers saying that they would be under Sharia law and not the U.S. law. So I'll just kind of say that as a disclaimer. That's what the article says. Of course, we've seen, like, you know, examples that I talked about and that you've talked about. We've seen it happen before. The other thing, what people are kind of saying is, I mean, it's got some people, it's mixed emotions in this article. We've got some people that are saying, you know what, we need to give them their religious freedom because that's what America is built on, is religious freedom. Then you've got other people that are saying, you know, we can't have this happen in our backyard. We can't have this happen in Texas or America even because of the fact of, you know, what this could turn into. Now, the thing is, like I was saying before, and I was saying no-go zones, so I'll say it slower so people can hear me. I know I got a southern drawl and I'm a redneck and all that stuff, and when I say things fast, like boiling oil, that gets people going. So, you know, no-go zone is what I was saying a while ago. So this could be established as one of those areas where if you are not Muslim, you are not welcomed in that area. And so that's what a lot of people around that area are worried about too. But Yeah, I mean, Vince, just so coming at this from a perspective where you lived in a neighborhood kind of like this at one point, or you were looking for a home in that place, right?
Almost did.
Okay, so
Several years ago, started to build a home.
Right.
And we were one of the first ones in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out on the building of the home, but we were the only non-Muslims in the neighborhood after the other homes started building, and we started meeting our soon-to-be neighbors. The builders were, I'm not even allowed to say their name today because we had a little run-in with them, but didn't work out. But we were getting ready to be in the neighborhood that turned out to be, it's actually real close to Epic here in East Plano. And we didn't end up moving there. But yeah, we started to feel that, like the pressure. And right next door, actually to the home we were building, we met the people, and they said, oh, the people right next door to you, that's the priest of the mosque, which I think might be the guy in the video.
Yeah.
And so that would have been an interesting situation, Doug.
Yeah, I think
might
that
have more to say about this. If
I think that is the same guy, because he's the leader of that Epic mosque out there. So yeah, I mean, it would have been probably very difficult for you guys to stay in that neighborhood had you built a house there. I would imagine they would have put pressure on you to get you to move out of there.
It was about 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. So lots has developed since then.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, we have friends that are Muslim friends. I have friends that came from a Muslim nation and came from a Muslim faith. But you know, they are no longer in the faith, and that, just saying that, if I were to say their names, that could get them in trouble, you know, just because of what Sharia law says about that. So anyway, these are just those things that as we talk about these articles and we talk about the things that people are going through and what they're seeing, it is worrisome. I mean, you know, our own staff, they're worried about it. People that live out there, your cousin probably has some feelings about that as well, especially since he's already been, you know, kind of delving into it to see what he can find out. So I don't know, Vince, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this.
Doug, there's a lot of people that think that the Antichrist is going to be a Muslim. They think that eventually the Muslims will rule the world.
Yeah.
What's our when we see news stories like this, the people that believe that are pointing at it going, see, this is another and it's similar to, like, we might hear new information about a red heifer and we're going to go, look, there's the red heifer, there's going to be a third temple. Right. Well, the folks that are the Antichrist is going to be a Muslim, they're going, here's another step towards that, just wait, it's coming soon. What's our take on that perspective?
Well, you know, we've talked about it several times, especially here lately, and we'll probably have to talk about it several more times, especially if Donald Trump keeps putting videos out there of giant gold statues of Donald Trump. We're going to have to talk about the possibility of who can be the Antichrist. But we believe, based on Scripture, that we can prove that the Antichrist is going to come from Europe. And we've talked about that several times. But Daniel chapter 2 with the statue that Nebuchadnezzar sees with the feet of iron mingled with clay and the 10 toes. The 10 toes represent the same thing as the 10 horns from Daniel 7 and from Revelation 13. And the feet of iron mingled with clay, well, we have that iron element from the Roman Empire and then the clay element from the Holy Roman Empire. We believe that that will be a revived Holy Roman Empire where the Antichrist will come from. That's why the other day when we did the story about this French leader that will rise up and save the world and then appoint the most holy pope that's ever been appointed, we're like, they're looking for the Antichrist based on what we know from the book of Daniel. So anyway, that's what we believe. We do not believe that the Antichrist will be Middle Eastern, but what we do know, Vince, is we know that the Sixth Trumpet War is going to probably be started in the Middle East based on what we know about the angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. That area, the Middle East, the Muslim populations that surround Israel, all those things are things that will push us into that war. And so we know Islam has a big part of it. Dave just finished last year doing the Green Horse and World War III at his prophecy conferences. That green horse is that pale horse that we see in Revelation chapter 6. And so we've seen the rise of Islam, and it really started way back when we had the Arab Spring, when there was the turmoil in Egypt and they had the civil war happening. And, you know, one of our DVDs, Vince, we've got some crazy footage where there is a camera angle that captures something on the camera that actually looks like a green rider on a green horse that comes into the frame and then just gallops out of the frame. It's very strange to see that, and we've got it in one of our DVDs that we teach on that. But that was weird because it's almost like, okay, was this the rise of that green horse spirit, and was God showing us that through this footage that we had? But the thing is that Islam's been on the rise. The Bible says that green horse is going to control a fourth of the world. And they're already beginning to do that and now expanding into areas. And one of the reasons why that's happening, Vince, is because of open border policies like we've had introduced here through the current the administration before our new administration. The Biden administration was allowing all these people we talked about, Middle Eastern men that were coming here that were fighting age, and you wonder where are they now. So you see all this stuff, and you do start to think, okay, what's coming? Is this going to be part of that Sixth Trumpet War? Or, you know, what could happen through this? Can we live side by side like this and coexist in an area where we're going to have a Muslim population that wants to change the face of our world in the way that we know it here in Texas? It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. So,
what do we do as Christians, Doug? Because, you know, I think about growing up. I'm from a small town in Indiana. We had a lot of Amish folk buy up property on the street, on my dad's street that we lived on. They started buying up all the farms, and before we knew it, almost every property there, 20 plus acres apiece, were owned by Amish families that were all connected.
Yeah.
And so I grew up around that, at least from the Amish community perspective. And as Christians, it's like, do we attack? I know we don't attack them, but how do we handle that, I guess, from a Christian perspective of, okay, there's a huge community coming in here. They're not really open to us going in there and going door knocking and saying,
right.
Hey, have you heard about Jesus can be your Savior? Like, that's not going to happen. So how do we navigate such a situation?
Well, you know, I mean, Vince, really, we have to show them Jesus through our actions and things. We can't always go and, like you're talking about, door knock. And I was talking to one of the people that's in my Bible study this morning on the phone about how even when you're talking to other people that may not even have any kind of religious beliefs at all, a lot of times people, they don't want to hear what you have to say, and it's disappointing, and people get discouraged and they get down because of that. But you know, I was explaining to him is that we have to show Jesus to those people. They got to see Jesus, and if we're not showing Jesus, they're never going to listen to us about Jesus. So one way that I think, you know, we deal with this is we try to get along peacefully. And yeah, this is concerning, especially because of the fact that if Sharia law is introduced, there can be a lot of things that can happen through that. You know, they could look at your wife or my wife as being a temptress because they're not wearing a head garment, you know, the hijab. And one of the things in Sharia law say that it's okay for a man to rape a woman if she's not wearing the headdress and covered up completely. And so some of these things are outrageous when we look at it from our perspective. And you know, you've even seen where female reporters will go into the Middle East to report and they have to wear a headdress to cover up their hair and everything. So the thing about it is, you know, as Christians, Jesus loved these people and Jesus died for them as much as anybody else. And like I said, we have Muslim friends who converted from Islam to Christianity, and they love Jesus just as much as we do, and it shows in their life and in the things that they do. And so we have to just show Jesus to people like this and try to coexist, like I said, and we let the government do what the government's going to do, but we just need to keep doing what we're doing as Christians.
Doug, the last 6 or 7 minutes, historically, this is when I would talk about guru, but I'm going to retire that, Doug.
Okay.
We were talking a few days ago, and you explained to me something I had never considered, that I think it was you and Dave, a combination of things that both of you said, was that one reason y'all don't like I know you don't like the public praise and all that, but also we try to point people to Jesus around here, and we don't ever want to be where we're receiving the glory. And so I would typically point to that in this moment because of how well you've done the last several minutes explaining these things. But I'm saying it before everyone. I apologize. We point to Jesus around here. We're not trying to exalt Dave and Doug or anyone else. Right. We're exalting Jesus. And so I guess that's the last time I'll ever say this on the show, unless I slip and mess up a few times, but maybe in the last segment. Stick around to find out. We'll be right back.
The Roman government controlled the world. So many people were looking for a different Messiah, a rescuing Messiah. Remember the story of the woman at the well. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. And Jesus said unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. Jesus very clearly stated that he was God and that he was the Messiah. We're even more blessed because we haven't seen those things, but yet we believe. When Jesus cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He knew every one of these prophecies had to be fulfilled. He said, it is finished.
Now streaming on one source and available to order at endtime.com/revealed. Go to endtime.com/revealed or call 800-ENDTIME.
Welcome back to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Don't forget, we have a conference coming up in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can go to endtime.com/events to get all the details on that there. It's coming up just here in a few short weeks. Dave's going to be teaching his brand new lesson, America's Prophesied Future and Breaking Prophecy News. It's a 2-day event, so we want to see you out there in Las Vegas for our first conference ever in Las Vegas. Doug, nothing more has come out on the Epstein list that I have seen. I keep trying to check and see what's coming out, and I see nothing new. So I'm not sure we're going to see it today or even this week at this point, but we'll keep our eyes out and see what it has to say when it comes out, and maybe there's some applicable things in there that will relate to what we do.
Maybe so. We'll just have to wait and see.
I bet there's some people on the list that'll tie into some of this world government stuff that we talk about.
I'm almost certain that could happen. So
well, when it does, we'll keep you posted. But until then, the Sharia City that could be going up, that is going up here in the Dallas area. Let's look at Sharia law a little bit, Doug. If they're successful, they're going to want to impose Sharia law in this closed community. And what would that look like?
Well, it's pretty scary when you think about it, especially, like I said, those no-go zones. If somebody went in there, they could break one of these laws, and then they would be in trouble for breaking those, and those people would be able to impose that on you. And so it's kind of scary. I'll let you read those, some of those, the ones, I'll let you pick the ones that you think are appropriate enough that we can read on the program here.
Well, I'll do my best. The one of them is it's punishable by amputation of the hands.
Yeah.
And so I've seen this in Dubai, where they don't have any crime, because if you steal in Dubai, you could have your hand amputated.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty graphic. It's pretty scary to think about, but that could happen. And I mean, who knows who would say if you were really guilty of this or not? But I mean, that's pretty harsh. But there's a lot of them that are punishable by death even.
Well, another one, criticizing Muhammad or denying that he is a prophet is punishable by death, Doug. Yeah. And that kind of happened here a little over a decade ago, I think it was. Just a few miles up the road, we had a episode related to this.
Yeah, and I actually worked with one of these people that got shot at that event. So he was he worked for the Garland ISD, and he was a security officer for Garland ISD. And at the Garland Event Center, they were having a thing there where they had people who were drawing cartoons of Muhammad, and these two Islamic terrorists came to shoot the place up. And the first person they saw, of course, was this Garland ISD officer, and they shot him through the leg. And then a Garland police officer that had gone to get lunch for him and himself shows up with their lunch from Subway, and he sees these guys shooting at his friend. He jumps out, and with his sidearm, a pistol, against ARs, he shoots both those guys and kills them before they can get in the event center. But their plan was to go in the event center. And then an officer with Garland, who's very close to both of us, who we know very well, he's the one that fired the shot to blow the trunk up, because they said they had explosives in the back of this car. And our good friend that's with the Garland SWAT team, or he was at the time, he made that shot and blew that trunk up. So pretty impressive shooting there. But that happened here in the heart of Texas, in Garland, which is just a town over from us. And it's actually where the church is that most attend there from Endtime at North Cities over in Garland. It's just a few blocks away from that church. And we were actually in church service that night when that happened. Mm-hmm. And as we got released out of church, we began to hear the reports of this going on just, a couple miles away from us. So.
Another one's criticizing or denying Allah is punishable by death.
Yeah, pretty scary.
A Muslim who becomes a non-Muslim is punishable by death.
So that's where our friends come into play. I mean, they have told me if we went back home, we risked the chance of somebody seeing us and killing us because we made a convert from from Islam to Christianity.
A non-Muslim who leads a Muslim away from Islam is punishable by death. A non-Muslim man who marries a Muslim woman is punishable by death. Mm. So, Doug, I mean, these sound pretty extreme, obviously.
Yeah.
There's no way this is really going to happen in this Sharia city, right? It's not really going to happen. It can't be possible.
I hope that it doesn't happen, but I think it can be possible. I think it can be very possible. It's scary. I know it's scary.
I mean, that just doesn't like. How could Princeton? I'm assuming they have. It's a small town. I'm assuming they have their own police department. But how could Princeton PD or even the sheriff in the area? How in the world could that even be? And maybe it would happen once, and then they would have to shut it down, or I don't know. I don't know how it would play out. But
well, up to this point, we've had things happen here. We talked about this in our pre-show about the father who killed his two daughters. He was a cab driver, and he felt like his two daughters were getting too Americanized, and he killed them. Well, he was arrested and went to trial, and he's serving a prison sentence now for murder of his two kids. But in his eyes, he was doing Sharia law, and he was in the right of what he was doing. He felt like he had done no wrong. And so that's where this gets worrisome. If they try to enforce these laws or these Sharia laws on any of American citizens, and if you lived in this area, like what happened with the police officer here, they believe they control this with Sharia law, and that American law will have no power there. So that's frightening to think about.
A few more to highlight quickly. A man can beat his wife for insubordination. A divorced wife loses custody of all children over 6 years of age or when they exceed it. Mm-hmm. A woman's testimony in court carries half the weight of a man's. A woman cannot speak alone to a man who is not her husband or relative. That one is like, I was in the hospital last year. Mm-hmm. I had a Muslim doctor come in and speak with me who was a female. And so I've had this experience where a Muslim doctor spoke with me. I don't know what's happening with that. She sees many patients. I didn't choose her. She just came into my hospital room one day. And so I'm going, how do they navigate that? Is there a loophole? Or if you're a doctor, you can get around that? Or maybe
she's just not in Sharia law. I don't know.
Yeah. Muslims should lie to non-Muslims to advance Islam. What does that mean?
Well, it's okay to lie is what that is saying. That it's okay to engage in a lie to non-Muslims to advance Islam. So right there in their own law, They can say, oh, we're not going to enforce Sharia law here. It's okay for them to lie. That's all right. So that's part. And I took out the scriptures that were there, but it gave you the Quran, and where you could find that actually in the Quran, where it says that it's okay to lie to people to advance Islam, even to the point to where it talks about killing people that will not convert into Islamism.
Well, Doug, this is kind of a new thing, at least to our knowledge here in the United States. We know it's happened to some degree, but it's getting more prevalent, I suppose. It's not new in other countries, though.
Right.
And I think we have a video to show of where this has happened in Britain, right?
Yeah, so this is in Great Britain, and parts of London, I believe, is where it's at. It may tell us in the video again, but this is from CBN, and this is actually from a few years back, so it's gotten even worse now. But I just want you to see what happens in these neighborhoods where Islam has taken over the neighborhoods.
When the Christian activist group Britain First took large crosses through the English town of Luton last year, angry Muslims confronted them.
It's your country, is it? Yeah?
It's a Christian country. It's a Christian country. Yes, it is. This is a Christian country.
You're jealous that we're taking over?
Muslims will take over what?
Urban areas are becoming increasingly Islamic, whereas rural areas are becoming increasingly English, and there's a retreat away from these two populations from each other. That's the future that is already happening, that the media isn't interested in.
Policy analyst George Igler says he does not believe it will take 40 or 50 years before the native British are a minority.
This is a nonsense. It's going to be much sooner. And more importantly, when you look at places like Luton, we already have an understanding. We already have a window into what this future will be like. It's going to be violence and sexual violence against non-Muslims. It's going to be Sharia law.
So see, he tells you right there it's going to be Sharia law. They know that's coming, and you saw this. So this is Luton, England, is where this happened. And you see that these people, when they're confronted on the street, they're very violent in the way that they scream and yell back, and they're saying, no, this is our country. What are you, jealous because we're taking over? And then the other person said, the Muslims will rule. Well, this is part of what it teaches in the Quran. It teaches them that Islam is to rule, that it is to take over and rule, and you either conform or you're killed. And so that's what's taught in Sharia law, that's what's taught in the Quran. And that's what we've got to understand. And this is why I believe in Revelation chapter 6, the violence that comes with that pale horse. And so, do you want to read that scripture from Revelation 6, verse 7 and 8?
Absolutely. It's, opening the fourth seal here, it said, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth.
So that is where we are right now. We're in that time where this green horse has risen up, and we're seeing this happen around the world. You know, just as recent as just the other day, in Africa, there were 70 Christians that were beheaded from a church. They were just taken out, and their heads were cut off. And this was simply because they were Christians. I mean, this happened in the Congo, is where it actually took place, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the people who did it, they believe, are part of a terrorist organization there within the Congo, and they just brutally go in and just massacre these people by chopping their heads off. And that's another reason why a lot of people believe that the Antichrist will be Islamic, because one of the things it says is people are beheaded because of their belief in Jesus Christ and because they won't take the mark of the beast. Still don't think that means that it's Islam that does that. This has become a form or a way to execute people quickly. It's been through history. In Europe, they did it all the time, and people even said that, you know, they could see the guillotine come back as an execution tool in the future. So that doesn't mean that that person's going to be Islamic that does that, but it does mean that there's persecution coming. And will the green horse rider be part of that persecution? Well, yeah, we know that because we see it in Ezekiel 38 when Islamic nations come down with Russia to invade Israel at Armageddon. And so Islam's going to be here until Jesus comes back.
Well, how do we wrap the show up, Doug? Just a few seconds.
You know, the thing about it is we can't let things like this scare us to death. We do still have a mission field in front of us. We serve the one true God, and you know, the Lord Jesus can do amazing things, and he can change the hearts of people. And I just pray that that community around them will show them Jesus.
Amen. And we're part of that community, Doug, right
Yes,
here.
we are.
We go to the grocery store and whatever else we do in the area. So be praying for us. And of course, don't forget, we're praying for you every morning. You can submit your prayer request at endtime.com/contact. And also, you need to go watch Dave's new Endtime original called The Green Horseman in World War III to learn more about this very topic. You can do that on Only Source today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. God bless.